Hi guys, I told you that I would have an update coming probably a little over a year ago, and well, life kind of got in the way. We had another kid, and things kind of got kind of crazy. So I've been previewing this other intake, which is this thing that's down here, and you can see right now I'm back to the stock intake manifold. I just want to point out a few things because there's a lot of people that don't know, and I did not know in the first place. If you look at these, supposedly are 375cc injectors. I guess they're common to SR20s, is what I've been reading. I'm going to go ahead and put them in some S2 rails that I have here, Series 2, which is the later 94 through 96. I think it's 94 through 96. Somebody can fact check me on that one. It may be 93 through 96, but I believe it's 94 through 96. I put this here just so that you can see the difference. This is an S1. You can see how much larger the actual gasket surface is. These gaskets are available. They're very difficult to find online. You cannot get them through a lot of Nissan parts houses, but they are available on eBay. You can see there's a huge difference in the actual washer size, but they fit pretty decently, even for just an eBay part, but they look like they're manufactured pretty well. And do not forget, while you're assembling stuff, including fuel injectors, a little bit of Vaseline or petroleum jelly, or you can use motor oil, but I've actually found that the motor oil will wipe off pretty easily when inserting the fuel injectors. It just sort of depends on what the tolerances actually are, and the Vaseline seems to stay on there until it actually comes in contact with gasoline. So that's pretty nice to know. A lot of you are going to ask, well, why did I go back to this? Well, the reason why I went back to a stock style lower intake manifold is because, quite frankly, I still have a ton of issues going on in this. You can see that the paint is actually peeling off the valve covers because I used a different type of paint compared to what I would normally use. I decided to use a brake paint because that typically holds up pretty well, but not to fuel. And I'm probably going to get them sent for powder coating just to try to take care of that. But the reason it's on the valve covers is because I had several, and I mean several, fuel leaks over and over and over again trying to do top feed conversions with that other intake manifold. And when it was running, it was constantly misfiring, and I was never, I think there was maybe a 10 to 15 second pulse here and there where I was running on 8 cylinders, so I had several issues over and over and over again. So what I've done is I'm switching back to a stock style setup, and when I do that, I'm just going to start problem solving. The other issue is I have still had like leaks from time to time. From the front timing covers, they're usually mainly just weeping and things of that nature. It's pretty tricky to seal up that front timing cover. You'll also see there's coolant down in the galley right now, and that's both because I took it apart to put the newer style coolant tubes. A lot of them had a plug right here to help get air out, I believe it is, but I'm using it actually for an ECU temperature sensor, which is much more convenient. I actually had 2 of these aftermarket style tubes here that would hold sensors, and one of them was weeping particularly bad, and that's why the coolant is down in there. It wasn't quite that much coolant, but it looks pretty exaggerated now. Also of note, there is, and I think I had made a video about some headers that really come out to here. They kind of look like excessive headers or MazWorks or somebody like that. They did not, in fact, work on a 300ZX at all. They hit all over the place. I could not get the steering around it. And right now, I basically just depowered the rack, which I may do a tutorial video eventually on depowering a stock rack. But there's a lot of good tutorials of Miata guys who depowered their power steering racks, and it's essentially the same process. So if you're worried about just how things work in general, it's basically the same process. You will need something like a vise in order to take care of it. Yeah, everything's still kind of a mess right now, and I've had so many comments about how nice my engine bay looks. Yes, it does look nice, but at the same time, I have pulled stuff in and out of this engine bay multiple times. I've resprayed it once. I had, where you can see, I had to bump the firewall because a fuel rail was hitting for the top feed setup. I mean, everything that can possibly go wrong has went wrong, and I'm just basically starting over at square one as far as diagnosing issues. And right now, I can't get miles in unless the car's running properly. So, step one, get the fueling sorted out, make sure that it's going well, and we'll just go from there. But thank you guys for liking, subscribing, following along. I know it's been a very long ride. Trust me, it's been a long ride for me too. Next February will be 8 years with this car, and you know, it's something where I've asked myself several times, you know, I could spend the money elsewhere and the time elsewhere, but this is a pretty interesting project, and with everything that's been going on, including, you know, COVID at the beginning of the year, it's been nice to kind of like get away from things and just come out and essentially problem solve and work on this and kind of move it further down the line. But it's been one constant problem after another with this. And yes, these are wrapped. You can see tons of electrical tape on things. That's mostly because I shrink wrapped it and I electrical taped it just to try to keep wires together, keep stuff cleaned up, make sure that we're not getting anything where it's not supposed to go. And everything else that you see is just essentially going to like an overflow and breather setup. So there's nothing complicated about it. I actually dropped the subframe down about a 1/2 inch just with spacers, as some people had suggested, in order to clear hood. Right now, I mean, I focused time on a lot of other things while this was down, and I got very close, but the further along that I've gotten, the more I've realized that if your car isn't going down the road, it makes it nearly impossible to want to go to the next step. So until this thing is just running great, I'm not going to take it too much further. I'm just going to keep noodling things out, and I mean, one day it will look more impressive. But for now, I'm just going to keep problem solving and trying to make sure that this can be what I had pictured it all along. So I know you guys have sat here and just stared at the engine for a long period of time, and I've kind of rambled a bit. But once again, anybody that's interested, this says 14, which is not correct. It's really, there's only 4 injectors in each one of these packages. But once again, these are S2 injectors. Has a little different filter location compared to some others. Some of them are higher up, some of them are further down. I pulled out both styles from this whenever I was pulling out injectors. None of them were working injectors. So just kind of think about that a little bit. 5cc extra is not going to hurt me when it comes to how this thing is going to run. Right now, I just need to not have leaks and ensure that everything is running properly. If you guys have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them. I probably will do another Q&A. That still seems to be one of the most popular videos that I've done so far. And I've got to say, I've learned a lot, even though I've not driven this car much at all in the past few years, which is why the whole rest of the side of the garage is just like kids stuff and like other crap that's just sort of set for right now. And actually, this car has gotten slid underneath another car, so that's just an old Corvette that's up above. And honestly, having a second car to kind of tool around in from time to time and play with has made it so that this sort of collected dust a little bit easier. So anyways, ask questions, leave a comment. Hopefully we'll have something for you guys sooner rather than later, but I guarantee you it's not going to be a year from now. Anyways, let's see if we can get this thing running before the snow starts flying. Later, guys.